So, for me, I remember as a kid, there was always, I don't know what VHS it is, what VHSs it was, but there's always a commercial for Kiki's Delivery Service. I always remember seeing a commercial for it in this, but, you never watch it. I guess I didn't really know what anime was and all that kind of cool stuff until I guess like everybody, Pokemon kind of really hit with everything. But I remember always seeing that preview, and they always had like music playing. It always looked very interesting. So then I think I finally saw it sometime probably in the late 90s. And that was the last time I saw it. So it's probably been 25 plus years since I've last seen it. And here we are with Miyazaki's 1989 35 years anniversary of Kiki's Delivery Service. They have it playing again for the Ghibli Fest they do all the time. They have sub and dub, but I'm like, well, I want to watch it in dub because that's how I watch it. That's how I saw the previews. Plus, I think it's a good cast of dubbing because, one, Gigi is Phil Hartman, and I love Phil Hartman. How can you not love Phil Hartman? And so it's kind of like I want to hear Phil Hartman, especially since they have the nice little in memory of at the end for the guy. Getting all teary-eyed thinking of this stuff now. But I was all teary-eyed and watery misty throughout the whole movie. It's just a feel-good movie. Really good. And it's just one of those sayings where it just shows you again how you're never going to get that stuff basically ever again, because this movie has good messaging, good morals, good everything. It's good. He goes to the bake shop, so you get bakery goods, comforting stuff. It's comfort food. But it's a movie in that form, and it comforts you, and it's just, I love that kind of stuff, and it's just really good, and I feel like it's something we're missing again, and they're showing all these previews of, like, coming soon, or they're showing some of the old ones, and some newer ones, like the Pompoko, and then they're showing that one from Who Made a Silent Voice come out, the colors and everything, like she sees in colors. It's out in January, and then they're showing stuff for Princess Kaguya. And it just goes to show you, like, wow, new, old, you name it. And it just shows you how much we have fallen. And Japan just still, with their animation and stuff, just still does an amazing job. Old and new, and they're still miles ahead of us, where our stuff nowadays is it just pales in comparison, because not just in terms of the animation, just more in terms of just the stories. Everything's the same nowadays, and it's always just either really, you can have all that kind of stuff there, but mostly just seems like bad messaging, no morals, really, really degeneracy and stuff like that. And it's just very fascinating how we're falling, but it brings a tear when you're like, wow, you just don't get this stuff anymore. And there's all that good messaging. And again, the morals and just everything is just so nice in the movie. And again, I like, just all the good characters. You got that nice, beautiful, I think I mentioned that with the Heron movie we talked about earlier with Miyazaki. The background always looks like paintings of a brush, just it's that simplistic painting look for their backgrounds. And then the characters have that nice simplistic design. And it's nice to see in a time where, where animation, where she's just walking through the town, and then you'll see them instead of just walking, like they're supposed to be walking, but they'll be doing something. There'll be a girl in a dress walking by, and a guy will turn around and look at her like, hey, like, she's pretty, or something like that, or there'll be something going on back there. There's just always something going on with, they'll throw in something where I'm like, hey, so it makes it more alive, more animated. But, I don't know, before we go into too much more there, and then again, the voice cast I always thought was interesting. So you have Kirsten Dunst as Kiki, as I said, Phil Hartman as Gigi, the black cat. He's adorable. Just from start to end, it just gets you right here, and you're always just very, very good. And then, of course, when you start recognizing everybody, Tress MacNeille, and just everything is just so good. And then Matthew Lawrence is Tombo, the boy that, likes her and then is fascinated with her. Matthew Lawrence is the one that's, to probably catch you up on, is Boy Meets World, the one that becomes friends with Eric, and it's Sean's brother. Because you're hearing this voice, and you're like, Then you got your typical other voice actors in there. And Janeane Garofalo, Kathy Selce in there. Always good to hear these voices. I think Debbie Berry was in there. And for that time frame, they all do a very nice job, especially like Kirsten Dunst, young girl at the time there, and did a pretty good job voicing her. So my one problem with that robot one that's out now, it looks wonderfully animated. It looks like it has a very nice story. I wish they didn't spoil the whole story in the trailer, but it looks like a very good movie. And I know it's supposed to be a robot, but I just feel like when I hear the robot in there, it doesn't sound acting enough. And that's like my one minus for that, along with a couple of voice acting nowadays. So I'm surprised that it wasn't something like that. But such a good, heartwarming messaging story of a witch in training, going to live with people, learning things. I like how she is with the old ladies, and then she learns this, and how they just all, she does these things for them, they all do things for her. Just shows you how nice that, these people she comes across with are, and everything. It's just a nice, simplistic story, and it's, I don't know, it gets you.
To be honest with you, I've actually never seen this movie.
Yeah, so that was his first time seeing it.
I've seen other Miyazaki films, and compared to those, this is more, I guess, not intense or more good feeling. It's a nice coming of age type of movie, and you can also relate to it as like your first time coming to a new town and not knowing anyone and where to go and what to do. Some people like those action movies, but what anime does really well is these more slice of life movies too. I mean, they can do beautiful animation for action, gore, you name it, but when it comes to slice of life, I think anime's done the best job.
They just do a good job of storytelling.
The spirit
like back in the day, where you just get stories. A lot of stuff was always stories about people, and that was enough to carry a story, and that was exciting enough where and they still kind of carry that out. Just like I said, everything's kind of lost nowadays, where we just don't want that.
Yeah, I know this movie was made back in '89, but as you said, Japan does a better job in general, especially nowadays, when it comes to their creativity and their characters and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the problem, where there's no one that's creative. Remember, the saying, evil can't create, and pretty much everything nowadays is done in a nefarious purpose. There isn't enough, people aren't making anything anymore for the sake of they're not artists, they're activists, and that's the problem. And that's why keep your grubby paws off of Japan, which they're trying to do. And Japan, sadly, is kind of bending the knee just a little bit, but hopefully they'll wake up, because they're like one of the last ones that is like, do whatever you want. You're creative. It's wonderful what they come up, normal to all the way to the extreme, to just craziness, beautiful stuff, you name it. It can be anything from where to where in between. They do such a great job, and I'm glad that the good side of all this stuff is that a lot of independent people now are coming out, and it's going to be the time for independent people and the time for art and creativity, and just do whatever the hell you want as an artist. That time will be coming back again, because we've been too long in the dark ages. Japan hasn't, but they're starting to get in there, but I think everyone's going to be coming back.
Yeah, and what's good about Kiki's delivery service is that it's got such captivating characters. Ones you care about, ones you feel about. They're not like two-dimensional. And Kiki carries the movies all the way through. And it's just a nice, sweet story that, good for the family and still can, we can relate to as an adult. It's just a great film. There's so much you could say about it. Like you said, we watched it in dub, and the English voice actors are really good. Because I know some of the Miyazaki films are like, oh, let's just get a celebrity or something. And I think this was more towards, what actually works for the characters. And the animation is beautiful. I love the scenery. That's something great about Japan. They do a good job of their scenery, their backgrounds.
Yeah, it was neat with the little thing of him before him, and they're showing behind the archival stuff or with new stuff, and they're just showing him walking to a place, and this is from this, and walk to a place, this is from this. All showing from the beginning all the way to when he did up to the idea of when he's starting with the heron, which was the last one, supposedly.
And that's what I like about these type of events, like Fathom. Plus, we watched recently the Fangoria Paramount Scare thing. What I like about all these Fathom event type things or whatever is that sometimes they'll do a before thing with the creator and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's really nice.
I was getting ready because I knew it was coming.
It's nice to, get a little extra because these events do usually cost extra, at least when it comes to the special, even on the days they give discounts. This is one of those that they won't because it's a special event. And I think, even though I don't own it, I think it's also really nice to see it on the big screen. It actually makes me want to buy it, to be honest with you.
Might have eventually at some point just got the VHS and back in those cool cases. But then, it's just one of those things where I loved it, but then it's just like a lot of things. And then you just never have time to watch it because there's just so many things you're watching because you got to constantly watch more and more. Especially back then, you got to move on to the next thing to watch it, when you got older. As a kid, if I would have watched a kid, I probably would have popped in all the time, like every Disney movie and every animated film we've done all the time, So it's very, very good. I just liked all the characters. I like, how caring like Asano is, taking her in and everything. Then her working. It shows you again something that I feel like kids don't want to do.
Yeah.
And young adults nowadays, or just a lot of people nowadays, just don't want to work. And then again, so polite, saying being thankful, doing this. Everyone's seeing in return. A lot of good heart and humor in there. You just see how caring like the town was and her parents were for when she goes off. And I'm fascinated with Tombo, just like how he's fascinated with her, and I like his little thing for flying machines and everything. And then I like the old lady. I like the old lady's like friend or servant or whatever, and she's flying on the broom and she's excited when the blimp's going. And then it's such a nice old lady. And then I felt upset too with these characters, like I'm sure like Kiki did, when they're not appreciative of the gifts and stuff like that. And then it's nice to see her being appreciative, because that's the kind of person she is, and that's how like good people in general are. Very good heartwarming stuff that I've missed, because you don't get that in movies or television, or even for like family stuff. It seems like it's not as much because of the darker times we're in. Plus, I don't see how the one guy confused the one friend of hers, the artist friend, as a boy. Yeah, I'm like, definitely a woman there. She's nice. I like her. That was fun. And, art and stuff, that always speaking with her. And I like the birds. So she was a nice friend, too. So it's very nice in this.
That's what's something good about Miyazaki in general. He comes with some creative characters or creative stories. I feel like people in the mainstream should watch more of these things instead of what they put on movies nowadays.
I know, all this stuff there is just good. Even ones that never interest me, it's kind of like, boy, I feel like I should just watch them anyway. Because, obviously they do now. That's the thing, And you can't always, everyone argues with nostalgia. It's like, I didn't grow up with these. So, like I said, I saw the Kiki once because I grew up watching this all the time. Was fascinated with, always wanted to watch it, but just never had a chance to, because as a kid, it wasn't usually up to me to go and, buy the movie, It had to be, at the time, of course, I'd be like, Pokemon, the first movie, you got to get it, or hey, the new Disney movie coming out. Of course, you get your folks to do it. But, once you're able to get old enough to seek it out yourself, then yeah, definitely. Now I feel like I should look back on a lot of these, because this year alone, we've seen a couple of them, and I'm, digging them. So kind of want to watch more. They're just good movies that I feel like you can't recreate now.
Well, yeah, and that's what's sad about the times we live in, because I don't even want to watch television anymore.
I haven't watched television in how many years now?
I just want to go more back into stuff that I missed or I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's some people say that's just nostalgia. I'm like, well, some of the stuff I've never.
Well, like you're saying with this, we talk about He-Man a lot and stuff, but I didn't grow up with He-Man. I had no interest in He-Man as a kid. It wasn't until you get older again where it's like, oh, very interesting. I kind of like it. I wish I was into it, but I wasn't a kid in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you're a kid in the 90s, so that was the time of the stuff in the 90s, where you get just the tail end of Turtles, Power Rangers, stuff like that. So there was no He-Man, G.I. Joe, and all these other cool things from the 80s that are like, these are actually very interesting. So I have no nostalgic hold on a lot of these things that I find interesting. I do have nostalgic hold on a lot of things, but there's still a lot of things you don't. So
yeah.
And then how is that any different than people nowadays who swear up and down to the best Turtle movies are Mutant Mayhem, and the best show is the one that came out in 2018, when they weren't that successful. So it's kind of like, well, you say, oh, you're blinded by nostalgia, but then how are you not blinded by your nostalgia right now?
Or what's new? The new shiny thing.
Everything's always everyone's like, oh, this is the best one yet of this movie. This is the best one. And then the sequel comes out. This is the best one. I know you can get into that, but eventually, as years go on, you'll realize, you know what? Not every sequel that came after was better than the other one. Sometimes some of them weren't. You'll start catching up on that.
It makes me want to watch all the Studio Ghibli's movies. Mm. I need to catch up on them.
Do more of the Ghibli Fest there when they do some more. I still want to watch. I've still never seen the My Neighbor Totoro, and I've never seen the one with the cat. Is that the same movie? What's the one with the cat bus? They just look cool. They always look neat, but I just never,
right,
watched them as a kid. Now I'm kind of like, I want to watch them.
Yeah.
So they do more of these. They do these Ghibli things every year, so I guess next year we'll watch some more.
I think it's not just the backgrounds, but it's just the whole thing of the hand-drawn. You just kind of miss that nowadays. Even the anime nowadays are moved more to the digital, and you just don't get that feel. So it's not just that it's old and some people have nostalgia. It's also the art, the beauty.
Yeah, well, again, that's the thing. We're losing a lot of beauty in this world and art, and, it's pretty sad. And just again, all the good stuff like heartwarming, good messaging, and morals and stuff that I feel like that's something that's being lost. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nice watching these and then feeling good watching it. Feeling good about yourself, good about others, good about these characters, good about people you know, people you don't know. It just makes you feel good.
Yeah. It's always, it's a good movie when you walk out of the theater feeling something different than when you first came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Studio Ghibli does a good job. Like we mentioned earlier, the Boy and the Heron. I felt something after that. The Boy and the Heron. And so, I don't know. I kind of wish Miyazaki would not stay retired. I say, I get it. When you get a certain age or whatever, you just want to enjoy your old age. But other times, some people, that's what they live for. And I hope, in a good way, he lives to make another one because I enjoy his style and art. They do a good job with the music in this.
Oh yeah, like I'm like tapping along. I'm like tapping along to it, like as if I've listened to it my whole life, and it's just really good. Love it.
And then I like how in the movie they plug in that the Zeppelin as it gets closer and closer to the end. They're just people getting so excited about it. Stuff that like that doesn't happen these days.
Hot siggity, as Grandma Thora would say.
Yep.
I guess that's a sign that we've rambled on long enough about an amazing movie, Kiki's Delivery Service. Any last words, or?
I say, I'm pretty sure if you watch this, you already seen the movie before. I say definitely revisit it if you haven't watched it recently.
I mean, technically 35 years because 89 for Japan, but technically it'd be 1990 for America, so maybe they'll release it again. And I like the Japanese music playing there. So that's the one thing I don't know, if that was in back in the day or if they decided to, because you know how like Pokemon has. So they had like when she's listening to the radio at the beginning, that catchy little song, and then the little song towards the end, and in the middle is like these songs. I'm like, hey, it's in Japanese. So that makes you wonder if the original one there had like more pop music or they did go with, So either way, I love that it had that really catchy, good Japanese music. Really good.
Don't forget to comment below if you have your favorite Ghibli movie. If maybe suggest one we haven't seen, or we should see, or revisit.
Probably a lot. Obviously.
Well, yeah, wasn't the Born Here like 13 or something like that?
So I mean,
I don't even know if I've even seen 5.
So what are we on? But I guess yeah, great movie. I love it all around. She's a great character. They're all great characters. Very sweet, and it was a fitting way for the Halloween season to end on. We missed Hocus Pocus. Yeah. We saw it last year with the 30th anniversary, Long Night Before Christmas. This year we get the shit for Christmas again. Based on Hocus Pocus, beautiful, wonderful movie. So hopefully next year, I'm just surprised it didn't get this year. So I'm sure next year they'll have Nightmare Before Christmas and Hocus Pocus again. So maybe that time we'll see them and then talk about them. And this was very fitting. And Kiki's Delivery Service, very good. Great movie. Just as great and heartfelt, even more so as I remember it. Because now I remember it even more and just felt to it all.
I felt like I missed out over the years, to be honest with you. Well, thank you and keep it gnarly.